afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to speak today. We want to start by congratulating the ad hoc committee for getting to this stage, the second and final session of the development of the terms of reference for a United Nations Framework Convention on International Tax Cooperation. We wish to commend the Africa Group for their continued spearheading of this work and fully support the remarks by Burundi that were made on behalf of the Africa Group this morning. We also wish to commend the efforts of yourself as the Chair, the Bureau members and the Ad hoc Committee as a whole for pushing the process forward, although we note that not all members of the Bureau agreed on the zero draft of the terms of reference. In light of this, we encourage all member states to continue to engage in good faith in this process with the view to fulfilling its mandate in accordance with Resolution 78/230 within the stipulated time. In order to do this, member states have to work efficiently. While procedural issues are indeed vital, continued reiteration of comments serve as a constraint from making progress and truly increasing the effectiveness and inclusiveness of the international tax system. Decision-making is a vital aspect of this process, and we encourage the principles of democracy, inclusiveness, transparency, and universality be reflected in decision-making. We note that this has already been reflected within the revised draft terms of reference. Additionally, in accordance with the procedures of a subsidiary body of the UN General Assembly, voting practices are well established within the UN, and therefore we encourage member states to defer to the decades-long established process within the UN. Taxation is not only a technical issue, but also a development and human rights issue, as has been mentioned by a number of states this morning. Mr. Chair, developing progressive tax systems is an urgent matter that has been evidenced even by the recent people-led protests in Kenya that began because of the issues we are discussing in these rooms. We reiterate that the issue of addressing tax-related IFFs remains of highest importance to African countries. Addressing IFFs is expressly within the mandate of the UN through the Sustainable Development Goal Target 16.4, which calls for significantly reducing illicit financial flows and arms flows, strengthening the recovery and returning of stolen assets, and combating all forms of organized crime by 2030. Addressing tax-related IFFs is also expressly within the mandate of this committee. Paragraph 6E of Resolution 78/230 expressly mandates the Ad hoc Committee to consider this a priority issue. We remind the Ad hoc Committee that in deferring to the governing instruments of this process, Resolution 78/230 did not limit the scope of the terms of reference to non-controversial issues or only to bridge gaps. Neither did it mention the use of non-binding instruments, but rather the opposite. It speaks to the use of a binding framework convention and subsequent protocols. Borrowing from the words of previous delegates, Resolution 78/230 is therefore not merely to be a bureaucratic document, but a blueprint for the functioning and scope of the work of the Ad hoc Committee. We thank you, Chair.